David was young, rich, and very handsome. He had everything most people could only dream of: big houses, fast cars, and a lot of money in the bank. People knew his name. People respected him. But there was one thing: he did not have true love. Every time he met a girl, it always ended the same way. They smiled at him, but deep inside, he could see it: they loved his money, not him. "I'm tired," he said one night, sitting alone in his luxurious living room. The gold chandelier above him sparkled, but his heart felt empty. David had been in several relationships. But every girl wanted the rich lifestyle, the private jets, the shopping sprees. Not his heart. They did not care if he was happy or sad. All they wanted was his money. So, one day, David made a decision. "I will go online," he said. "I'll hide my identity. I won't say I'm rich. Maybe, just maybe, we find someone who truly loves me." He created a simple account. No flashy photos. Just a picture of him wearing a plain t-shirt, smiling. No fancy background. No mention of money. He even used a fake name: Dave. He joined a normal chat group for young people. He did not want to go to dating sites. He wanted something real. Something natural. For weeks, he chatted with different people. Some were funny. Some were rude. Some stopped talking when they found out he did not look rich. And then he met Ella. Ella was not rich. In fact, her life was the opposite of David's. She lived in a small, rented room with her younger brother and her sick mother. Every day, she woke up early, swept the compound, cooked food for her family, and then went to work at a small supermarket. She did not complain. Even though life was hard, Ella always wore a smile. Her beauty was simple, natural. She did not wear heavy makeup or expensive clothes. Most days, she wore the same pair of jeans and a clean top. But her heart, oh, her heart was golden. People in her neighborhood liked her. "Ella is a good girl," they always said. "She helps her mother, she works hard, and she respects everyone." One evening, after a long day at work, Ella sat on her bed and opened her phone. Her friend had added her to a new chat group filled with young people from different cities. "I'm just here for fun," she thought. "Let me chat a bit and sleep." Then someone sent her a private message. It was a guy named Dave. "Hi, how are you?" he wrote. She looked at his photo. He had a simple smile. No flashy background. He looked normal and kind. She replied, "I'm fine, thank you. And you?" That was the beginning. They talked for a few minutes that night. He asked about her day, and she laughed as she told him how a little boy had knocked down a whole pile of biscuits at the supermarket. "Wow, that must have been funny," he replied. "It was. I almost cried from laughing," she typed. That night, Ella went to bed smiling. And so did David. From that first message, everything changed for both of them. Ella and David, who she only knew as Dave, began chatting every day. Morning, afternoon, and night. It felt like they had known each other for years. "Good morning, sunshine," Dave would text her. Ella would smile and reply, "Good morning, mister." Simple smile. They talked about everything. Their favorite food, childhood memories, dreams, fears, and funny stories. David never told her he was a billionaire. And Ella never acted like someone who was looking for a rich man. One day, he asked, "What do you really want in a man?" Ella thought for a moment and typed, "Someone kind. Someone I can talk to. Someone who loves me for me." David stared at the message for a long time. He smiled, then replied, "That is beautiful." Ella asked him the same question. "And what do you want in a woman?" David said, "Someone honest. Someone who loves me, not my money. If I had any." Ella laughed. "You sound like you have been hurt before." He typed slowly, "Yes. Many times." That night, David did not sleep early. He kept reading their chats again and again. There was something about this girl. She was not asking for money, gifts, or trips. She was just herself. And Ella. She was falling too. She looked forward to his messages. His silly jokes. His calm way of typing. She didn't know who he truly was, but she felt safe talking to him. Both of them had no idea what the future was about to bring. But one thing was clear: they were not just online friends anymore. They were connecting. They did not just chat anymore, they started doing video calls. David would make sure he wore very simple clothes, and he always sat in front of a plain white wall. No one would guess he was in a mansion. Ella never noticed. She was not looking at his background. She was always focused on his smile and the way he spoke to her like she mattered. One day, during a video call, David asked her, "Do you mind if I tell you something strange?" Ella raised her eyebrows. Strange. What is it? David paused for a second, then said, "I'm not really who you think I am." Ella frowned a bit. What do you mean? I mean, I've hidden a part of my life from you. Ella became quiet. David continued, "I'm not a bad person, I promise. I don't want to be loved for the wrong reasons." Ella gently smiled. "I understand. You don't have to tell me anything until you're ready." David was touched. Most people would have asked 1,000 questions. But Ella did not push him. She gave him space. That night, he stood on the balcony of his house, looking at the stars. "She is different," he whispered to himself. "She does not even know who I am. And she still cares." David made a bold decision that night. "I'm going to test her. If she loves me now, without knowing I'm rich, then I'll tell her the truth. But if I tell her now, she might change. She might pretend." He picked up his phone and texted Ella. "Can we meet in person next weekend?" he asked. Ella smiled as she read the message. Her heart skipped a beat. "Yes," she replied. She had no idea that this meeting would change everything. The day was getting closer. David could not sleep. He walked up and down in his room, thinking and planning. He wanted to meet Ella in person, but not as David the billionaire. No, he wanted to meet her as a man who had nothing. He wanted to test her love. So, he came up with an idea, a strange one. "I will pretend to be crippled," he said to himself. "Let me see if she'll still care." It was risky, but David was serious. He wanted to know the truth about Ella. So he called his most trusted driver and told him everything. "I need a wheelchair. And I need to look like I'm just a poor, struggling guy." His driver was shocked. "Oga, are you sure about this?" David nodded. "Very sure." He wore simple clothes, an old polo shirt, rough jeans, and slippers. He also bought a cheap phone just for that day. No one would recognize him as the billionaire from TV or magazines. "Don't take my usual car," he told the driver. "Use the small one in the garage." Everything was ready. Meanwhile, Ella was excited. She bought a simple dress from the market, styled her hair herself, and told her little brother she was going to see a friend she had been talking to online. "You look happy," her mother said, smiling weakly from the bed. "I am, Mama. Pray for me," Ella replied. Her mother said a soft prayer. "May this friendship bring you peace." That day, two people from two very different worlds were preparing to meet. One with a secret, one with an open heart. And neither of them knew what would happen next. The sun was high in the sky when Ella arrived at the small public park where they had agreed to meet. It wasn't far from her side of town. She came early, holding a small bag, her heart beating fast. She sat on a bench and looked around. "He said he'll be here by 1 p.m., she whispered, checking the time on her phone. Just then, she saw a car slowly drive in. It was small and old. Nothing fancy. The door opened, and the driver stepped out, then gently brought out a wheelchair. Ella's eyes widened as she watched a young man her Dave carefully placed in the chair. His legs were straight and stiff. He did not smile. She walked slowly toward him, her heart pounding. She did not understand what was happening. "Dave," she asked quietly. He looked up at her, forcing a small smile. "Hi, Ella," she blinked. "You did not tell me you." He nodded. "I'm sorry. I did not want to scare you. I have been like this for 2 years now. I wanted to tell you, but I did not know how." There was a long silence. Then Ella did something that surprised even David. She stepped forward, knelt down beside the wheelchair, and took his hand. "I'm just happy you are here," she whispered. "You are still you. And that's what matters to me." David almost broke down. His driver, standing by the car, looked away and wiped his eyes. No one had ever touched David like that, with pure love and kindness. They sat together on a bench under a tree. They talked, they laughed, and they even shared food Ella brought in her bag. To everyone around, it looked like a normal young couple having a quiet picnic. But to David, it was one of the most powerful moments of his life. The park was calm. Birds flew across the sky, and children played in the distance. But for David and Ella, it felt like the world had paused just for them. They spent hours talking. Ella did not ask about the wheelchair again. She did not complain. She did not act shocked. She just treated David the same way she always had. David offered her a drink from his small bag. She smiled. "Thank you. Do you regret coming?" he asked suddenly, searching her eyes. Ella shook her head gently. No, I only wish I had come earlier. David looked away for a moment. He didn't want her to see the emotion in his eyes. Then she leaned closer and said softly, Dave, your legs don't define you. I did not fall in love with your legs. I fell in love with your heart. That broke him. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he quickly wiped them away. You are something else, he whispered. Ella laughed. I have been told I'm special. They took a few photos together, just simple selfies. David stayed in his wheelchair the whole time, and Ella stood beside him proudly, as if to say, this is my person. The sun began to set. I have to go now, Ella said, standing up slowly. David nodded. I'll miss you. Same here, she smiled. But we'll talk tonight, right? Definitely. She gave him a gentle hug, one that felt warm, sincere, and safe. Then she walked away, not looking back once. But David could not take his eyes off her. She really loves me, he said aloud. Even like this. She still loves me. The driver rolled him back to the car quietly. Inside, David sat still and stared out of the window. He had never felt so loved. Or so confused. What should he do now? That night, David could not sleep. He lay in his giant bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Ella. She did not even flinch, he whispered to himself. She hugged me, smiled at me, treated me like a normal person. He turned to look at the wheelchair parked beside his wall. The same wheelchair he didn't need. Yes, David was not crippled. He was a strong man. A healthy man. A billionaire in disguise. But now, he felt guilty. She loves me, and I'm lying to her. The plan was to test her. And she had passed that test with flying colors. But now he was not sure what to do next. What if she hates me when I tell her the truth? The next morning, David told his driver, I want to go to the orphanage. Today. The driver was surprised. Orphanage, sir? Yes. I need to remind myself of where I came from. David did not grow up rich. He was an orphan who worked his way up. He knew pain. He knew hunger. And that's why he had promised himself that he would never marry someone who only loved his money. At the orphanage, the children ran to hug him. He played with them, fed them, and gave donations as always, but today, he was quiet. One of the little girls tugged his shirt and asked, Uncle David, why are you sad? He bent down and smiled. Because I lied to someone very special. The girl looked confused. Then say sorry. Simple words. From a child. But they hit him hard. Say sorry, she had said. Later that day, he texted Ella. David. Can we meet again soon? Ella. Of course. I'd love that. David took a deep breath. It is time to end the lie. But how? 2 days later, David and Ella agreed to meet again, this time at a quiet garden close to the city center. It was calm, peaceful, and filled with colorful flowers. David arrived first, already in the wheelchair. He sat silently, looking around, waiting for her. When Ella showed up, she looked simple but beautiful. Her gown was yellow and flowed in the wind. She carried a small bag and had a bright smile on her face. Hi, Dave. She said cheerfully. He smiled back, though his heart was heavy. They talked for a while. About music, movies, and silly memories from childhood. But David was not really listening. He was thinking. Thinking about the secret. Thinking about how to tell her. After a long silence, he said, Ella, can I ask you something serious? She nodded. Of course. If I lied to you, would you forgive me? She looked surprised. It depends on the lie. But I believe everyone deserves a second chance. David swallowed hard. What if Ella lied about something big? Something I did to protect myself, but now, I feel it is hurting us. Ella became quiet. Are you okay, Dave? He nodded slowly. I just don't want to lose you. Ella took his hand gently and said, if you ever have anything to tell me, tell me. I will not walk away because of a mistake. David looked at her. He wanted to tell her everything right there. But something stopped him. Not fear, but the need to find the right moment. The perfect time. Thank you, he whispered. They sat side by side in silence, letting the garden breeze pass between them. A love story was growing, but it was also sitting on a secret. And secrets don't stay buried forever. The days went by, but David's secret still weighed heavily on him. Every time he looked at Ella, every time she smiled, his heart twisted in two. He could not keep pretending. He knew that, but he was scared that when he told her the truth, she would turn away from him. Scared that their love, which was growing stronger every day, would crumble under the weight of his lies. One evening, as they talked over the phone, David took a deep breath. He had decided. I have to tell her, he said to himself. That weekend, they agreed to meet at a small coffee shop near the city. This time, David was not in a wheelchair. He chose to meet her as himself, not the man she had gotten to know through a lie. When Ella walked in, she looked even more beautiful than usual. She smiled when she saw him. Hi, Dave, she said softly, walking over to his table. David stood up to greet her, his heart racing. Hi, Ella, he replied, his voice almost a whisper. They sat down, and for a while, they talked about everything except the secret that was burning inside of David. Finally, after a long silence, David looked her in the eyes. Ella, there's something I have to tell you. Something that could change everything between us. She leaned forward, her brow furrowed in concern. What is wrong? David took a deep breath and began. Everything you know about me. It is not true. I'm not the person I've been pretending to be. Ella looked confused. What do you mean? David paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. I'm not disabled. I was pretending to be. Her eyes widened in surprise. Wait. You mean, you were pretending to be in a wheelchair? David nodded. Yes, I did. I wanted to see if you would love me for who I am, not for what I have. I wanted to know if you would still care about me if I wasn't rich and famous. I've been lying to you, Ella. And I'm so sorry. Ella was silent for a long time. Her face was unreadable. David's heart pounded. He was sure she would walk away. Then, Ella spoke. You were right. She said quietly, you should have told me the truth from the start. But you did not, and maybe that was wrong. But you didn't lie to hurt me. You lied because you were scared. Just like I was. David blinked. What do you mean? Ella reached across the table and took his hand, just as she had done before. I was scared too. Scared that if you knew who I really was, if you knew my past, my family, maybe you would not want me anymore. David looked at her in confusion. But why? Ella smiled softly. Because I didn't want you to love me for the wrong reasons. I didn't want to be just another girl in your life because I was prettier, because I had money. I wanted you to love me for who I am inside. David stared at her in amazement. He had never met anyone like her. She was brave, honest, and full of love, just like he had hoped. I love you, he whispered. Ella squeezed his hand tighter. I love you too. The weight on David's chest slowly lifted. In that moment, he realized that the love they shared was stronger than any secret or lie. The days that followed were filled with deep conversations between David and Ella. They talked openly about their pasts, their fears, and the reasons behind their decisions. Both of them learned something new about each other that they had not known before. David was amazed at how Ella took everything in stride. She didn't get angry. She did not yell. Instead, she listened, understood, and forgave him. Ella knew the importance of trust, and while David's lie had shaken her at first, she was willing to let it go. She realized that David's heart was pure, and he had made the decision to test her because of his own insecurities. One evening, as they walked through a quiet park together, Ella looked up at David and smiled. You know, Dave, I used to think that love was all about the perfect moments and the big gestures. But now I see that love is about being real, even when it's hard. You were scared, and I was scared too. But we're here now, together. David smiled back. I don't deserve you, Ella. You're amazing. Ella laughed softly. No, you are amazing. You are just a little complicated. They both laughed, but deep down, they both knew the truth. They had found something rare. Something worth fighting for. That night, David called his driver and made plans to visit a special place the next morning. I want to show you something, David told Ella the next day when they met. She raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Where are we going? You will see. David's car drove them to a quiet spot by the beach, a place David had kept private, even from his closest friends. It was a beautiful, hidden gem, with soft sand and clear blue water. They sat on a bench, looking out at the ocean as the sun began to set. David turned to Ella, his eyes full of sincerity. I want to start over, he said quietly. No more secrets, no more lies. Just the real me, the real us, together. Ella smiled, her heart swelling with happiness. That sounds perfect. They sat in silence for a while, just enjoying each other's company, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore was calming. For the first time in a long while, David felt at peace. He had been through so much, but now, he had someone who truly understood him. Someone who loved him for who he was no matter what. As the days passed, David and Ella's relationship grew stronger. Their bond was no longer based on secrets or fears, it was rooted in trust, honesty, and love. David had never been happier. He was free from the weight of the lie that had haunted him for so long. Ella, too, had a sense of peace about her, knowing that they had both embraced their flaws and vulnerabilities. One afternoon, David took Ella out to lunch at a beautiful rooftop restaurant with a breathtaking view of the city skyline. They sat down at a table by the edge, where they could see the entire city below. "Wow, this place is incredible," Ella said, looking around in awe. David smiled. "I thought you'd be like it." Ella turned to him. "You know, I used to dream of coming to places like this. But now that I'm here, it is not the view or the fancy food that matters. It is you." David's heart swelled. He had always imagined that the perfect partner would be someone who loved him for his wealth and status, but now he realized how wrong that thinking had been. It was not the riches that mattered. It was the person sitting across from him. "I don't think I'll ever stop being amazed by you," he said, his voice full of emotion. Ella smiled softly. "And I will never stop being amazed by you either." Their meal came, and they enjoyed the delicious food together, talking and laughing like any couple should. There was no pretense, no fear, just pure joy in each other's company. As they finished eating, David looked at Ella with a serious expression. "Ella, there is something I have been thinking about." Ella raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" David took her hand gently in his. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I don't know how to explain it, but everything feels right when you are with me. Will you marry me, Ella?" Ella's eyes widened in surprise. She had not expected this, not so soon, but deep down, she knew the answer. "Yes," she exclaimed, her voice filled with joy. "Yes, I'll marry you, David." The people around them clapped, but all David could see was Ella's smile. The moment they had both dreamed of, the moment where everything felt perfect, had arrived. The days after their engagement were a whirlwind. David and Ella shared the most beautiful moments together, from quiet evenings in the city to romantic weekend getaways. They had discovered something special in each other, something that went beyond appearances, beyond money, beyond everything they had once thought mattered. As their wedding day grew closer, they began planning every detail, making sure everything was perfect. But despite the excitement, they both knew that their true happiness was not in the wedding itself. It was in the love they shared, and the life they would build together. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of David's penthouse apartment, looking out at the city lights below, Ella turned to him. "You know, I have been thinking a lot about everything we have been through," she said softly. "The lies, the fear, the secrets. It was not easy." David nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "It was not, but what matters is that we made it through. We found each other. And we are stronger for it." Ella smiled. "I agree. And I have learned something important from all of this. It's not the big things that make a relationship strong. It is the little moments, the honesty, the trust, the love we share every day." David took her hand and looked into her eyes. "I promise you, Ella, no matter what happens, I will never lie to you again. I will always be honest. I will always be real. And I will love you with everything I have." Tears filled Ella's eyes as she squeezed his hand. "I promise the same, David. We have been through so much, but I know that with you, I have everything I need." They sat there in silence, the city lights twinkling around them, as if the world itself was celebrating their love. David had everything he could have ever wanted: wealth, success, and most importantly, the woman he loved. But for the first time in his life, he realized that the real treasure was not the millions he had built. It was the woman beside him, who had shown him what true love really was. "I love you, Ella," he whispered. "I love you too, David," she replied, her voice full of emotion. And in that moment, they both knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together side by side, always. The weeks leading up to their wedding were filled with excitement and anticipation. Ella and David were immersed in the details, from choosing the perfect venue to selecting the dress and suit. Every decision, no matter how small, seemed to bring them closer together. Though David had the resources to hire the best wedding planners, he made sure that every choice reflected his love for Ella. He did not want their wedding to be just another extravagant event, he wanted it to be a true reflection of their love story. One evening, as they sat together in their favorite cafe, David looked at Ella with a soft smile. I can't believe we're almost there, he said, his voice full of excitement. In just a few weeks, we're going to be married. Ella smiled, her heart fluttering at the thought. I know, it feels unreal. It's like a dream come true. David reached across the table, taking her hand. You've made all of my dreams come true, Ella. I have never been this happy in my life. Ella blushed, squeezing his hand in return. I feel the same way. You are everything I've ever wanted and more. They spent the next few hours going over final wedding plans, making sure every detail was perfect. The wedding would be an intimate affair, with just their closest friends and family. It was not about the size or grandeur, it was about the love they shared and the future they would build together. As the wedding day approached, both of them could not help but feel a sense of nervous excitement. They knew the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but they were ready to face them together. The love they had for each other was unwavering, and that was all that mattered. On the night before the wedding, David stood at the window of his penthouse, staring out at the city below. He felt a wave of gratitude wash over him as he thought about how far he had come from the man who had lied to test Ella to the man who would soon marry her. His heart swelled with pride, not because of his wealth or achievements, but because of the woman he was about to marry. Ella had shown him what it meant to love unconditionally. She had given him the courage to be honest, to be vulnerable, and to be himself. I can't wait to call you my wife, he whispered to the night. The morning of their wedding arrived, bright and beautiful. The sun was shining, and the air was filled with excitement. Both Ella and David woke up with butterflies in their stomachs, each feeling a mix of nervousness and joy. It was a day they had both dreamed of for so long, and it was finally here. Ella was surrounded by her closest friends and family, all of them helping her prepare for the big moment. She sat in front of the mirror as her makeup artist worked her magic, and the sound of soft laughter filled the room. Her mother, standing nearby, could not help but smile with pride as she looked at her daughter. You look so beautiful, Ella, her mother said, tears welling in her eyes. Ella smiled back, her own eyes glistening with emotion. Thank you, Mom. I'm so happy. As Ella's hair was carefully styled and her dress adjusted, she couldn't help but think of the journey she and David had been on. From the moment they had met online to the challenges they faced, everything had led to this moment. They had found a love that was real, built on trust and honesty. Meanwhile, David was preparing with his best man by his side. He had chosen a simple but elegant suit, knowing that the focus would be on the woman he loved. His nerves were in full swing, but the thought of seeing Ella walk down the aisle calmed him. I can't believe this is actually happening, David said, adjusting his cufflinks. His best man laughed. You have been waiting for this day for a long time, Dave. She's going to look amazing. You have got to be ready for that moment. David smiled nervously. I know. I just want everything to be perfect. As the clock ticked closer to the ceremony, both of them knew that nothing else mattered but the promise they were about to make. This wasn't about the fancy venue, the guests, or the decorations, it was about the love they shared and the life they were about to start together. Finally, the time came. Ella stepped into the dress she had chosen with so much care, her heart racing as she was helped into her shoes. The moment had arrived. As the guests began to fill the venue, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. The elegant hall was decorated with soft white flowers, golden accents, and twinkling fairy lights. Everything about the setting was magical, and the soft hum of music played in the background. David stood at the altar, looking out at the guests. His heart was pounding in his chest as he waited for Ella to walk down the aisle. His best man stood by his side, offering him reassuring smiles, but David's thoughts were completely consumed by the woman he was about to marry. Ella was behind the curtains, waiting for her cue. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes for a moment, calming her nerves. Her heart was full of love, hope, and excitement for the future. She had found her person, her soulmate, and now, she was ready to spend the rest of her life with him. The moment had come. The music shifted, and the doors to the hall opened. All eyes turned to see Ella, standing at the entrance, ready to walk toward David. She was breathtaking, her white gown shimmered under the soft lighting, and her veil fell gracefully over her face. The guests gasped in awe at her beauty, but Ella's focus was solely on the man waiting for her at the altar. With each step she took, her heart beat faster, but she was calm. She knew that she was walking toward the love of her life, toward a future filled with happiness and challenges, but most importantly, love. David's breath caught in his throat as he saw Ella approaching. Her beauty took his breath away, but it wasn't just her appearance that made his heart race. It was the love in her eyes, the trust and the promise they had made to each other. He could not believe how lucky he was to be standing here, about to marry her. As Ella reached the altar, she took David's hand, and the world seemed to disappear. It was just the two of them, standing in that moment, knowing that they were about to embark on a new chapter of their lives. The ceremony began with the officiant's voice ringing out, but everything seemed distant to David. All he could focus on was Ella, the way her hand fit perfectly in his, the way her eyes sparkled with happiness. When it was time to exchange vows, David's voice trembled as he spoke. Ella, when I first met you, I was scared. I was scared to let someone in, to trust someone, and most of all, I was scared to love. But you showed me that love is worth the risk. I promise to always be honest with you, to always support you, and to love you with all that I am, for the rest of my life. Ella smiled through her tears, her voice full of emotion. David, you have made me feel loved in ways I never thought possible. You have been my rock, my support, and the person I can always count on. I promise to be there for you, through everything life throws our way. I will love you, always. The officiant smiled at the couple, watching the deep love they shared. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. David gently lifted Ella's veil, his heart racing as he leaned in to kiss her. As their lips met, the room erupted in applause, but it felt like nothing mattered except the two of them. The kiss sealed their promises, their vows, and their future together. The wedding reception was a celebration of love, joy, and new beginnings. After the ceremony, everyone gathered in the grand ballroom, where the atmosphere was filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. The couple had chosen a light, joyful theme for the reception, with delicate white flowers, soft lights, and gold accents that glowed warmly under the chandeliers. Ella and David were surrounded by their closest friends and family, all of them sharing in the happiness of the newlywed couple. The night felt like a dream, a beautiful moment suspended in time, full of love and laughter. As they entered the reception hall for their first dance, all eyes turned toward them. The music played softly in the background, and David took Ella's hand in his, leading her to the center of the floor. The guests watched as the couple moved gracefully together, their eyes locked in a shared gaze of love and happiness. David smiled down at Ella, his heart full. I still can't believe this is real, he whispered, his voice full of wonder. Ella chuckled softly, resting her head on his chest. I know. It is like everything I have ever wanted is right here with you. They swirled around the dance floor, lost in the moment. For them, it wasn't about the large crowd or the fancy venue, it was about the way they felt when they were together. This was the beginning of a new chapter, and they were ready for whatever the future would bring. The guests cheered and clapped along with the music as David and Ella shared their first dance. Then, as the song ended, they were joined by their family and friends, each person eager to share in their joy. The night was filled with laughter, heartfelt toasts, and moments that would be remembered for a lifetime. Ella's father stood up to give a toast, his voice trembling with emotion as he raised his glass. To Ella and David, he said, his eyes glistening with pride. May your love always shine bright, and may you both continue to build a life full of happiness and love. The guests raised their glasses, echoing the sentiment, and the room filled with applause. Ella squeezed David's hand, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. She had always dreamed of a day like this, but she never imagined it would be so perfect. Later in the evening, as the party continued, Ella and David sneaked away from the crowd for a moment of quiet. They stepped out onto the balcony of the venue, the cool night air brushing against their skin. The stars above seemed to shine brighter than ever. David wrapped his arm around Ella, pulling her close. I could not ask for a better day, Ella. This is everything I have ever dreamed of. Ella smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. Me too. And it is just the beginning. There's so much more to come. They stood there for a long while, enjoying the peace and the moment they had worked so hard to reach. They knew that their journey together wasn't going to be easy, life never was, but they also knew that as long as they had each other, they could face anything. The night sky above them was filled with stars, and as David looked at Ella, he knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together forever. The days following the wedding were filled with joy and excitement as Ella and David began their new life together. The honeymoon was magical, an intimate getaway to a secluded beach resort where they could relax and enjoy each other's company, away from the world. It was the perfect start to their marriage, and it gave them both a chance to reflect on how far they had come. Ella couldn't stop smiling as they spent their days lounging by the beach, exploring the local sights, and having deep conversations under the stars. It was during one of these late-night conversations, as they sat on the balcony of their private villa, that Ella realized just how much she had changed since meeting David. "I never thought I could feel this happy," she confessed, her voice soft but full of emotion. "I used to believe that I needed to be independent, that I had to do everything on my own. But you've shown me that it's okay to let someone in, to rely on them." David took her hand gently, squeezing it. "And you have shown me that love is not about perfection. It is about accepting each other, flaws and all, and working together through life's challenges." Ella leaned her head on his shoulder. "I don't think I could have found someone better than you. You're everything I never knew I needed." David smiled, kissing her forehead. "And you're everything I have ever wanted, Ella. I'm so grateful for you." The rest of their honeymoon passed by in a blur of love and laughter, but soon, they had to return to reality. As much as they wanted to stay in their little bubble, their lives awaited them back home. They returned to their city, to their jobs, and to the bustling life they had built together. But now, they faced these challenges side by side, ready to take on whatever the future held. As they settled into married life, David and Ella found themselves growing even closer. They spent weekends exploring new places, trying new activities, and making memories together. There were still some obstacles they had to navigate, but now they knew they could tackle anything as long as they were together. One evening, as they were sitting on the couch, Ella glanced at David, her heart full. "You know, I used to be afraid of what the future would look like. But now, with you, I feel like anything is possible." David looked at her with a grin. "I feel the same way. With you by my side, I know we can accomplish anything." They sat there in silence for a moment, just enjoying each other's company. There was no need for words, their love spoke volumes. Life had its ups and downs, but with each passing day, Ella and David's bond grew stronger, built on a foundation of love, trust, and respect. The future was bright, and they were ready to face it, hand in hand. Just when Ella and David thought they had settled into a perfect rhythm, life threw them a new challenge. It wasn't anything huge, but it was enough to shake the calm waters they had enjoyed since their wedding. David had been offered a significant promotion at work, a role that came with more responsibility, a bigger paycheck, and new challenges. At first, it seemed like a dream come true. He was excited about the new opportunity and the potential it held for his career and future. But soon, he realized that the new role meant more hours, more stress, and less time at home with Ella. Ella noticed the change almost immediately. David's long hours at the office became more frequent, and he started bringing work home, trying to juggle his professional responsibilities with his personal life. While Ella understood that this was an important step for David, she could not help but feel a little neglected. One evening, after a long day of David working late again, Ella sat on the couch, waiting for him to come home. She had prepared dinner, hoping to spend some quality time with him, but the minutes stretched into hours, and David still had not arrived. When David finally walked in the door, his face was tired, and his suit was wrinkled. He gave her a quick smile before sitting down at the table, pulling out his laptop. "I'm sorry, babe. It's been a crazy day." Ella put down the book she had been reading, her eyes searching his face. "David, we need to talk." He looked up, surprised by the seriousness in her tone. "What is wrong?" Ella took a deep breath. "I know this promotion means a lot to you, but I feel like we are growing apart. You're always working, and I'm starting to feel like we're living separate lives. I miss the days when we would just hang out and enjoy each other's company." David felt a pang in his chest. He had been so focused on his career and the demands of his new role that he hadn't realized how much it was affecting Ella. He set his laptop aside and took her hand in his. "Ella, I'm so sorry. I never meant for you to feel neglected. You're the most important person in my life. I just got caught up in all the new responsibilities." Ella looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of frustration and concern. "I understand that your work is important, but I don't want us to lose what we have. We've built this beautiful life together, and I don't want to lose sight of that." David's heart ached as he looked at her, realizing how much he had taken their time together for granted. "You are right. I have been so focused on work that I forgot what really matters. You and me. I promise I'll do better, Ella. We'll figure this out together." Ella smiled, relieved to hear him say that. I just need you to be here, with me. We don't need grand gestures, we just need time to connect. To laugh, to talk, to enjoy life together. David nodded, his gaze softening. You have got it. We make more time for us. No more late nights. We're in this together. From that moment on, David made a conscious effort to balance his work and personal life. He delegated more tasks at work, took time off when needed, and, most importantly, prioritized his time with Ella. They started spending weekends exploring new places, cooking dinner together, and simply enjoying each other's company. It was not always easy, and there were times when work would still demand extra hours, but they were in it together. They learned to communicate better and to make time for what mattered most, their love for each other. As weeks passed, David and Ella's relationship grew stronger. They had faced their first real challenge as a couple and emerged from it with a deeper understanding of each other. Them realized just how much they valued their time together. One weekend, David surprised Ella with a spontaneous getaway to a quaint cabin in the mountains. It was far from the hustle and bustle of city life, offering them both a peaceful retreat where they could recharge. No phones, no distractions, just the two of them, surrounded by nature. When they arrived at the cabin, Ella couldn't believe her eyes. It was a cozy, rustic home nestled among tall pine trees, with a beautiful view of the mountains in the distance. Inside, the fireplace crackled, and there was a warm, welcoming atmosphere that made them both feel at home immediately. Ella smiled as she took in the beauty around her. David, this is perfect, she said, her voice full of gratitude. David grinned, watching her face light up. I thought you could use a break. And so could I. They spent the weekend hiking, cooking meals together, and enjoying each other's company without any distractions. As they sat by the fire on their last night at the cabin, David pulled out a small box from his pocket. Ella looked at him, curious. What is this? She asked, her heart fluttering with excitement. David opened the box, revealing a beautiful necklace with a delicate pendant shaped like a heart. This is to remind you of how much I love you, he said, his voice soft and sincere. No matter how busy life gets, you are always my priority. I want you to always know that. Tears welled up in Ella's eyes as she took the necklace from him, moved by his gesture. David, this is beautiful. Thank you. And I promise, no matter where life takes us, we always choose you. We've been through so much together already, and I know we can handle whatever comes next. David carefully placed the necklace around her neck, his fingers lingering for a moment as he gently adjusted it. He looked into her eyes and smiled. You have always been the one I have wanted, Ella. There's no one else I'd rather have by my side. Ella leaned in, kissing him softly. I love you, David. And I'll always be here with you, through everything. They held each other close, feeling the warmth of the fire and the love they shared. The weekend was a beautiful reminder that, despite the challenges they had faced, they had something special. Their love was not just about the grand gestures, it was about the small moments, the understanding, the commitment to always support one another. As they sat together by the fire, they knew that their journey was just beginning. They had learned how to navigate the ups and downs of life as a couple, and they were ready to face whatever the future had in store. They were more in love than ever, and nothing would change that. As the final note of the music played, and the last guest bid their farewell, David and Ella's journey together was just beginning. Their wedding day, a day filled with love, laughter, and unforgettable memories, marked the start of something beautiful, an adventure of shared dreams, challenges, and unwavering love. The love that began online, grew through trust, and was tested with time, had triumphed, and now, they were ready to face the world together. Their story wasn't just about a fairy tale wedding, it was about two souls finding each other, overcoming obstacles, and building a life full of possibilities. For David, this was the beginning of forever with the woman he had come to love with all his heart. For Ella, this was the promise of a new life with the man who had shown her what true love was, unconditional and real. Together, they were unstoppable. The end. And with that, David and Ella's incredible journey comes to an end, at least for now. But their love story will continue, and their adventure is just beginning. If you enjoyed their tale, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe for more heartwarming stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think about their journey. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, true love always finds a way.